are back again with another episode of the Release Valve and Mental Warfare. I am your host of the Release Valve, Sean Hanlon, and once again I'm joined by my brother, Kyle Spain of Mental Warfare. What is going on? How are you?
What is going on, my brother and people of the world? It again feels amazing to be back to continue to get this thing rolling. We are here to better ourselves mentally and physically, but it starts with the mental first. We can't better ourselves physically unless we start bettering ourselves mentally.
Right.
So I'm excited for today's topic. Ready to get after it, ready to continue building. And I hope everyone is excited as I am. And I know that's not the truth, but that is the goal. That is the goal. What is going on, my man? How are you today?
Hopefully they'll be just as excited, or at least feeling the same positive energy that we feel towards the end of this, right?
Yeah, it's because they haven't been on yet. Whoever has not been on doesn't understand, and those who do and have been on do understand.
Right.
Because it's a refreshing feeling to have. But what do we have today, sir? What's our topic of the day?
Well, speaking of mental health, starting with mental health, and not to dismiss anyone else's health, but June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we are going to dedicate this episode to bringing as much attention and awareness to men's mental health. Obviously it's something, being men and knowing what it's like to struggle at some point in our lives, mentally, physically, emotionally, we know what it's like. So we want to do what we can to be there for those that are or have been or are still in those similar situations. Mental health is something that affects everybody, obviously, right? So again, I just want to reiterate that, we're not trying to dismiss women's mental health or their emotional health or anything along those lines. But, with it being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, we are just going to focus on that a little bit today.
Absolutely. And to piggyback that, for the people out there in the world, if you are a woman, like you said, Sean, like Sean said, not to, feel any offense. We're trying to tackle all aspects and angles of all mental health with all different categories and people of all backgrounds and stuff like that. But for the women out there, I encourage you to, to stay tuned in, because you have a significant other, you're married, you have a spouse or whatever the case is. Maybe this can give you a little bit more insight on where men are coming through, so you can have a better understanding of how to help your significant other or spouse have a better understanding of what they're going through, because that's perfect, because it strolls right into what I wanted to talk about today. And first I'm going to give glory to God and give him his credit, because all is possible and all that it has been possible is through him. But close second is my wife, because I wouldn't be in the mindset I am right now if it wasn't for her, conducive to mental health, men's mental health awareness, through the fires that I went through, transitioning from basketball to real life, being the breadwinner in a fashion that was comfortable for both of us, right? And when that event or that situation transitioned and I was no longer a basketball player, that really took a toll on me mentally, because now I'm not doing what I was doing before to be the man that I felt I was before, taking care of everything and being positive, having everything, just almost seeming like I had everything together, right? And in fact, I didn't, so shout out to my wife, Amanda, for her understanding of what it's like for me to have gone through what I've gone through. But not just that, but having an understanding of what life is actually about. I'm blessed to have my wife and the mindset that she has, because she could have easily went a different route as far as the way that she supported me and has supported me up until now. And so that's why I encourage you ladies out there to really try and grasp and get a stronghold of what's going on for us men. because I have a page up right here, Medical News Today. We'll put that link into the description. But women don't understand what men go through on a daily basis as society expects us. The expectations a society presents for us, and it's a lot different now than it was before, right? But still, you still have those traditional gender roles or gender expectations that are out there, and the world is just getting crazier and crazy. But yeah, so as a man, like, what is it that we're dealing with, that you have in mind? I've got a couple of things up that I'll discuss, but as far as yourself as a man, what are men struggling with?
I think, speaking from experience, it was first initially recognizing that I was struggling in a lot of ways,
That's huge.
Let alone anyway. Definitely the first thing was recognizing that I even had some stuff going on mentally, that I wasn't thinking clearly and thinking without my emotions attached to it. Because a lot of times, we can quickly jump to a certain conclusion based off of how we're feeling at that moment, and then go forward with that, as opposed to really being able to open your mind up and see the bigger picture of what's going on, right? For myself, it was definitely recognizing that I did have things going on, that I wasn't okay. That was definitely something for me, with allowing myself to even be vulnerable enough to admit that I wasn't okay, that I had things going on. A lot of the struggles that I had, I think, was due to immaturity and not being able to, or knowing how to handle my feelings and my emotions, so once I was able to start recognizing the struggles that I was having, I was able to stop looking at all the excuses that I had that were leading me to the struggles that I was having, and really start looking at myself, because I was the common denominator with all the issues that I was having in my life, right? And it wasn't all the other excuses that I had that I used as a crutch almost, right, to lean on, instead of allowing myself to actually walk. So once I started looking at myself, this is a long process, right? It took a long time for me to, one, recognize that I had issues, that I had some unresolved things going on, displaced anger, misplaced anger, all that type of stuff. So, again, once that time period was going on, went through, then I was able to start looking at myself and realizing things about myself that were the root cause for a lot of things. It was my standpoint or my mindset, or, just the way I felt about something. And like I said, going forward with that, based off of, my foundation wasn't set, right? It was just, like I said, it was just based off of emotion. So, when the emotion is removed from a situation, I was doing myself a disservice by not taking that time to reflect and really assess the things that I had going on. Again, I would make a decision based off of emotion, and then I just went forward with that. So, like I said, taking that time to reflect, look at myself, and then start to seeing what different things that I could do. What are things that I could do differently? What are things that set me off? All right, well, let me not be around those type of things. I'm inserting myself into certain scenarios that are leading to these negatives in my life. So stop inserting yourself into those scenarios. You know what I mean? Like,
Seek the energy. Yeah, seek the energy you desire.
Exactly. Like they say, be the change that you want to see in the world, right? So
Yeah.
I was, it's all in the same. So, again, it's all these steps that I was taking in my own personal growth. And, fortunately enough, I think I do a lot of this. A lot of this has to do with, I think, the people that I've was fortunate enough to have around me. Like my parents, my family, certain friends, that I was able to lean on or go to with certain things. I was very fortunate. I didn't find myself, although I probably could have benefited from it, I didn't find myself in a situation where I had to go seek out therapy or anything like that. I was able to really figure a lot of these things out along the way, albeit a few of them were pretty later than I would have liked, but I still was able to figure a lot of this type of stuff out. So I once I really started paying attention to myself and how I was feeling and the things that I had going on, like I said, that bigger picture became a lot more clear to me than that little one that I was focused on. It's kind of like on a picture, it's pixelated, right? And the more you zoom into it, the less focus there is, and the more blurry everything else kind of seems, and you don't get to see the full thing. So once you're able to zoom out and see that full picture, everything becomes sharper, more clear, right?
Nice analogy.
Yeah, I pulled that one. I pulled that one out. But
sometimes it happens like that.
Yeah. So that's what it was for me, man. I stopped focusing on the little aspects of certain things that I had going on. Started focusing on myself more and less on why everybody else around me either had an issue or wasn't there for me or whatever. Again, took other people out of my equation and just focused on myself. And with that, it sounds funny. Once I stopped focusing on other people so much and focused on myself, I was then able to properly focus on other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't doing it the right way before. So definitely, if you got a lot of problems in your life and it's hard for you to figure out what's really the root source of it or the root cause, my thing, what worked for me was looking internally. Looking at the man in the mirror and really, like I said, we've talked about it on here before, being honest with what I was seeing. And that's where I saw a lot of the problems, a lot of the issues that I was having, a lot of my stress, a lot of anxieties were due to me not being a genuine person. And feeling like I've said before, that I had this certain facade that I had to upkeep in order to I don't know, save face in front of people or something, whatever it was. So yeah, a lot of things got better for me, or at least a lot more clear. Things became more clear once I really took that time to look at myself and like I said, be honest with what I was seeing.
Yeah, do you know what's crazy about that? And this is, I guess we can go, maybe this should be a challenge, and not just for men, but for women who are struggling mentally, right? Trying to figure out their path, because it's a very unisex world now, right? Things
Right.
aren't as traditional. Women are very empowered these days and trying to figure out their own path and their own development and their own success. And as far as looking in the mirror and looking at the inner self, Amanda and I restarted this show called Queen of the South, and initially we weren't going to restart it, but we restarted it and been pulling a lot out of it. As far as my lens is different in going into watching these shows. I'm always looking at the mental health aspect. What are people going through? What are people are experiencing? And Teresa, the main character of the movie, like, she's in the gutter, right? She's in the slums of Mexico, like she's in hell going through it, right? And she has her future self as her guidance, as her mentor, as her guider, right? And her future self is her future successful self, right? And she's basically telling her, like, this is it, that you're going to have, things are going to be dark. Like, you're going to have to go through these things in order to get out to the other side. And it made me think about it made me think about my situation. And usually we put ourselves in those type of situations when we're watching movies and or listening to music or whatever the case is. We're always trying to
Right.
find a way to relate ourselves to whatever we're watching, and that's why it's important to be careful of what we're watching as far as the energy that we're putting into our bodies. But anyways, I came to a thought, and although I do have a vision of my future self, the challenge to myself was to create my future self as my mentor, right? Or as my guide, or what would my future self say to me in order to be as successful as I could be? And you know what? No bull, bro. Like, I'm like, yo, I'm low-key kind of scared. Like, I'm low-key kind of scared of what my future self is going to tell me, right?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I haven't done it yet. What I'm going to do it because I just don't want my future self to call me out, right? To
Right.
call me
Yeah.
out on the bullshit that I'm doing. But
Right.
it's crazy. That's that part. I've been honest with myself with a lot of things, but there's so many things that we still continue to hold on that we need to let go. And it's that part of ourselves that don't want to be real with ourselves, that want to keep ourselves in that state of deniability.
Yep.
And so my challenge to you and everyone else, even for myself, because I haven't done it yet either, is to come up with a vision of your future self, right? And I think this is going to be a great challenge in theory, because one, I'm not sure how many people actually come up and create a successful version of themselves and of what that looks like in the future, because it starts with imagination, right?
Right.
And from experience, I've asked people like what their dreams were, right? I think like we've talked about this before, and the answers that I got were so mind blowing that it was like, wow, their mind is so restricted and limited to what's actually possible that it's crazy mind blowing. And it led me to the conclusion that there's a lot of people that don't even use their imagination, right? You
Lost
you
it
can't
over the years
dream
or something.
exactly. You can't dream without an imagination, right? So that's why an imagination is even more important than dream, because you have to have an imagination to dream. So I think with this challenge, it would allow us to use our imagination and create a version of ourselves, a successful version of ourselves, and allow that person to talk to us, right? I've done it a little bit, and it helps, but I haven't done it 100%. I haven't 100% divulged in it. But I believe it will allow me not only to create a version of myself that I appreciate, that God appreciates, that I appreciate, right? But then also opening our minds of what is actually possible, because it all starts with the imagination. And I was listening to Myron Golden the other day, and he kind of just freshly reminded me of where we've come from, right? We started as babies, man. We started as knowing nothing, right? We started with an imagination, playing with our toys. Like, we created figures, we created sceneries in our heads, in our minds, and we grew up, and the enemy started telling us lies about ourselves. We stopped imagining, we started dreaming, we stopped envisioning what was possible, right? And that's basically what we were here to do. Like, there was no airplanes before, there were no cell phones before, there were no cars
Right,
before.
right. Somebody thought of that.
Thought of that, right? Somebody created that. It came from their mind, a vision that they had, a problem
Right.
that people were having. They figured out a way to solve those problems, and that's basically what life is about: is finding what our purpose is for, creating that purpose, and giving it out to the world so we can make the world a better place. But not all of us are using our imagination. And so I thought that was crazy to think about, opening our minds and allowing us to have that creativity, because that's what we're here to do. We were here to create because we're creators. And
Right.
I talked to you yesterday or earlier today as far as creatures, and how create is the base word for creatures. And if you actually try and sound out the word the way that it's spelled, it actually is spelled create tours. right? Instead of creatures. If you look at the word how creatures and see the way that it's spelled, it's not pronounced the way that it's spelled.
Right.
You know? And so I thought that was mind blowing when I saw it. And so we are creatures, basically beings that were meant to create, you know? And so I think that is huge. That is what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think of the word. Majorly important as far as, you know, our development and, you know, making those necessary steps and success for our future.
Right, yeah, for sure. No, I love that. I think that's a great exercise to do, if nothing else, just a mental exercise for yourself. Like you said, to get those creative juices flowing. You know, if you can, write it down. But if not, you know, yeah, just think about it. You know, what would, and we've talked about it before, being the hero of your own story, write your own movie, be the hero of your own movie. You know, what does that person look like? You know, what do they do for a living? What do they dress? How was their hair done? You know, think about all of it. You know,
Yeah,
literally think
details.
about every little detail that you could possibly think of, how this person carries themselves, how they treat other people, you know, the word usage, verbiage that they use, you know, all that type of stuff. The car that they drive, you know, every little detail that you can possibly think of. Because, like you said, that's going to get that creative, like you know, the creative juicing going, the creative mindset going, and then allowing you to start thinking of ways to get to those positions. How do I get that? How do I achieve that? Right? How do I?
That's a different level of thinking. Absolutely,
exactly. Because sometimes that's all that it takes is just creating that mental bridge between what it could be and where you're at, and then how do you get there? You know, you think about that, write it down, create almost like you're writing a story.
You have to write it down. Exactly. Right? But that is the story, because we all have a story to tell. And part of that story is being the hero of our own story. And in that story, we are the hero. Do you know what I'm saying? It's important to write it down. Yes.
Because in life, you are that main character of your life.
Yes.
It is your life. Everybody else story, is, right. You know, and I'm not saying that you need to treat everybody as if, you know, they're just these side characters that don't matter, because in everybody else's life they're the main character. But when it comes to how you handle yourself, how you carry yourself, how you go about, you know, your days and even your nights, stuff like that, that needs to be main character energy. That needs to be, you know, what is this main character doing? Are they sitting down on the couch scrolling on their phone, feeling sorry for themselves because of all the mishaps they had in their life that led to this point? No, I mean, maybe that's a certain portion of the main character's story, but that's always what's fast forward, you know, told, you know, real quick. It's not something that you spend a good portion of the story watching or you know, observing. You gotta you step up. You do the thing, whatever it is. You know, you have the conversation. You make the action. You make the move. You know, whatever that main character, whatever you want it to be, like you said, write it down and start working in that direction. Start coming up with those ideas. You're going to get so much further than you were if you were just continuing down the path that you're on, which is not thinking about these things, not writing them down, not taking any action. You know,
and if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards.
Exactly. Because time is still going, like you said, right?
Absolutely. I wrote this down. I definitely, without the other characters in your story, there's no movie, right? You've never seen a movie with only one character in it. So those people that are around you are equally as important as the self in your own story, right?
Right.
And then a thought to think about is, I think this is a very important factor in the development and the success for everyone's future, is that future self, like we talked about, those certain steps, like how are they talking? How are they moving? What's their verbiage? Like, what's their demeanor? How are they treating other people? That future self that you see in your mind isn't the same person that you are right now. What does that mean? It means that you're going to have to change the way that you're doing things now in order to be that person you see in your visions.
Right.
And I think that is a part, an important part that a lot of us don't understand. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people paralyzed, stagnant in the same spot, waiting for life to come to them. It's because of the habits and the things that we're doing in our lives now that are going to affect our future. What we talked about the other day, every deed, every thought, and every word is a seed that we're planting in our garden for the future, right? Whether we like it or not, everything that we're doing, every decision that we make as of right now is going to have some type of reaction in the future, whether that's good or bad. Right. So that's something that we have to think about as we're going through our daily basis or our daily lives, making these types of decisions. And just bringing it up right now, that's something that I need to put on my vision board, is like, what decisions are you going to make today? Right. Are they going to be towards your future self? I'm asking myself the same question. Right. Are these decisions are going to be conducive to my success, my ultimately successful self? Because I'm going to say that I'm successful now. Like with this mindset that I have, is I've reached a place of inevitability, right? Success is inevitable as long as you're working towards those goals. I mean, this hands down, that's what I believe in.
Working towards something, right? You know what I mean? Like, a goal, a milestone, or whatever. Just working towards something positive. Yeah, you're going to accomplish more than not. Like you said, being stagnant and not doing anything. Just having some sort of purpose, I think, is definitely a good motivation driver, or, something, especially as men. We've talked about this before. We seek to have a purpose in life. We seek to have, meaning behind what we do. And if we don't, that's where a lot of us struggle the most is, what's the reasoning for why I'm doing this? What am I gaining from this? If I'm not gaining anything from it, then it's taking something from me. Yeah. And the more that we do that, like working a job that you don't enjoy, or, whatever the case is, the more, like I said, if you're not able to take away something from it, then more it's taking away from you. And the less we feel like our true selves, the less we feel like the men that we're supposed to be, right? The way that we saw ourselves as kids and stuff like that. A lot of us, we looked at our future and we were the man. We were going to be the man no matter what. That's just kind of how our mindsets are as kids. We look at the adults around us, and all of the adults were cool, right? Except, even our own dads, they were the man to us, right? There's something about looking at the future and being excited about, that coming for you, that happening to you. Even just your dad, driving a car or something like that, you would look over and see your dad driving and be like, man, I can't wait to drive like him someday. You know what I mean? Like you know that it's going to come. So you look up to almost all the men in your life, right? Like think about it, especially with sports and stuff like that too. We're constantly finding whoever that quote unquote alpha is, or the best one, or whatever, the ones that stand out, and we're drawn to them. The same thing, like you said, with movies, why do we do that? Well, it's something that we insert ourselves into, with some sort of relatability, something that, we see ourselves in them, or something along those lines. And, that's how we start viewing ourselves in the future. Not realizing that, what are we looking at? Not breaking it down, but just, it's so surface level, like you said. But if we were able to really assess what it is that we're looking at success. We're looking at somebody who did all of the hard work that got to the point that they're at. And we wanted that. We wanted that so bad. We saw ourselves doing that, you know what I mean? And again, not seeing everything that it took for them to be what they were. And then over time, slowly but surely, we don't become that. And that's a shot to our manhood. That's a shot to our pride, our ego. We feel like we are a shadow of the ourselves, of who we should have been, or could have been, or whatever. And that's what comes with all the resentment around, you start using all those excuses of all the things that prevented
Yep.
you from being what it was that you wanted to be. But again, we were in the driver's seat the whole time. We just didn't, we didn't get drive in the right direction, or we didn't get off on the right exits, or we didn't keep
Yes.
driving when we were supposed to,
Yes.
whatever it was. We were the ones that were in way more control than we thought. And I just said this to you the other day or yesterday or something like that. Simply because we're alive, we just assume that life is going to happen for us, things are just going to fall into place. And speaking from experience, man, I found out the hard way that wasn't it, man. I had to go and get it. I had to go and create as much opportunity for myself as possible, and take advantage of those opportunities as they came, as opposed to sitting around and waiting for them to come to me, and then having somebody mold it to my liking. You know what I mean? Like I was on such a high horse, on my own high horse, trying to direct nobody into making things happen for me. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
getting upset because nothing was happening.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? Thinking about it right now, even if something was given to us deep
Oh,
down
cool, thanks.
subconsciously, right? How much more are we going to appreciate it? How much are we going to appreciate it? Because the work wasn't done for us. We didn't do the work ourselves.
I didn't earn it.
We didn't earn it, and that's where we get that self satisfaction. Like I put the work in to get what I have, right? Versus something that was just given to me that I didn't work for, and that's why we don't have any fulfillment. Because if we're not working for it, we don't get the reward, right?
That's it.
And I think about this a lot with rich kids, and I think people need to stop hating on rich kids, like as of today. And this is the reason why, right? First of all, their parents put them in a situation and did the work that they needed to do to put their kids in a situation that they didn't have to worry about money, right?
Right.
So that's what we all want to do for our kids, right? Build generational wealth and not so they don't have to worry about that, right? That's just hater mentality. That's just hater talk. That's just bad vibes. That's enemy energy anyways, right? Envy and jealousy. But a lot of us, when we're starting from the bottom, as far as finances, right? Because that's ultimately what we're trying to be. We're trying to make as much money as possible through the purpose in which we were created to do, right? So what happens if you're not taught? Because this all starts with programming, right? What happens when you already have all the money in the world and all the materialistic things? And this is where materials don't matter, right? This is where it's not important anymore when you already have it all, right? So when you're a rich kid born in a rich family and, say you're in a situation to where mom and dad are working hard and they're not there that a lot, right? So there's love lost. And so the attention might be diminished in that household, right? So what happens if you don't understand how to fulfill your purpose because you already have everything that you have? What do you do then? Right. And that's where you see rich kids in a lot of situations are just partying hard, or they're doing drugs and alcohol, going to parties and just
Whatever
doing
they
that
can to feel something, right?
to feel and to fill that void.
That's that false dopamine hits that you get. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you chase that because it's a drug, right? You get that hit, that dopamine hit, and then you need more. And it was funny. I just saw this thing that was talking about doing like a cold plunge or taking like a cold shower or something along those lines first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Or whenever, but the best time to do it is first thing in the morning. But it's something about the dopamine hit that you get from that is equivalent to the same and I'm going to botch this, but is this equivalent to the same amount of dopamine that you would get from whatever amount of cocaine or something like that. But how much you get from coke is only going to be for like 9 minutes. And that's why the people that do it, they want more of it or whatever.
Yeah.
But what you get from that cold exposure for like 3 minutes or whatever it is, It lasts for like 2 hours.
That's
So
wild. I did not know
s-
that.
yeah, legit. And it's something along those lines. I'm not, obviously I'm not a doctor. I'm not anything that I'm not a good source of that information, but look it up. It's something along those lines that so again, it's just one of those things that you can get, false dopamine hits, and how dangerous that can be chasing those, and the real life substitutes that are good for you, those real dopamine hits that you can get and that last that much longer and are just that much better for you overall.
Yeah.
There's something better for you than the these false alternatives that a lot of people are turning to, and bringing that back to people with mental health, or again, talking about men's mental health. A lot of people turn to substance abuse, excuse me, substance abuse when they're struggling, whether it's alcohol or drugs, or fill in the blank, whatever it is. Not being able to deal with how you're feeling mentally or emotionally, you're going to turn to something that numbs that for you, that blocks that off, allows you to either not think about it or not feel the same way, or whatever the case is. And once you get those blockers going, you want more of that. You want to make sure that you continue to keep that up, so that way you don't have to feel the things that you're feeling. So finding right coping mechanisms when you're struggling. Again, bringing it back, recognizing that you are struggling, and taking action with that. And I think the next step after you recognize what you have going on is talking about it, bringing it up with somebody, or we said writing it down or whatever. But if you're truly struggling, and you be honest, if you have to turn to whatever it is, some sort of substance or some sort of external variable that you need to insert in order to get by or whatever, you got to be honest with yourself. That's not okay. You need to be able to deal with emotions. You need to be able to deal with feelings. And if you can't, you need to have a healthy coping mechanism that you can turn to, that's going to help you get by. We've talked about the correlation between working out and mental health. You know what I mean? We've talked about talking to people, and we had Justin on here talking about the same thing too. How he used to drink every night, and he validated it and justified it for all whatever reason that he could come up with. But then he got to a point, somebody broke it down to him, like, how long are you doing this for? Think about what you're doing and how long you've been doing it for. You can honestly tell me that that's good for you, that that's healthy. And he kept it real. Nah, it's not healthy. It's not good for me. And you're right. I have other people in my life now that rely on me to be the best version of me that I can possibly be. And I'm not doing that, So again, being honest, recognizing that you have something going on, being honest about that, and then you can start looking at the necessary steps that you can take. Start looking at, identify your support system, identifying what the people that you can turn to, and identifying the people that you can't turn to, realizing that you may have some toxic people in your life that you need to cut out and get rid of. It's not good for me to be around these type of people, especially if we're talking about drugs or, substance abuse or anything along those lines. If you have people that are in relation to that, you got to cut them out. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you've known your dealer since the 6th grade, like, that's been a bad influence since the 6th grade. Like, you got to get out of there.
Anything that's negative energy or anything that is holding you back. And it's not easy, right? It's obviously a lot easier.
That being honest part is the hardest part, I feel like.
I mean, we've been programmed to we've been taught the wrong thing and programmed for the longest time, that we've been dealt lies. And so it's like, now we've talked about the whole deprogramming, right? And the deprogramming of all of the stuff that we've been through, or we've learned as children, And the programming kind of it stems from our belief system, which is in our heart. Like what we believe comes from the heart. And so now we have to change the way that we think so we can believe a certain thing, so we can learn the truth about the world instead of the lies that we've been told. The whole
Right.
9 to 5, the whole going to college so you can get a good job, and this and
And
that.
defining masculinity, right? Being a man,
Absolutely.
you have to internalize those thoughts and those feelings. You don't talk about your feelings. You don't open up like
I
that. That's
love
not a
that.
manly thing to do, right?
Exactly. And now that you said that, I wanted to talk about. You had sent me a message with some of that data on there, and
Right.
what was it? 80% of men are more likely to commit suicide, or men are 4 times likely to commit suicide than women, making up 80% of the suicide rate. Right. And
Wild.
then, wow, that's crazy. I'm looking at a website right here, medicalnewstoday.com, and it has a couple of factors as to what men struggle with on a daily basis, and one of them is being the breadwinners of the family, which is huge. Money, when money is involved, that's always a huge factor. But like, let's not.
Right.
We're not going to downplay all the other stuff, because we know that money isn't ultimately the factor, right? We gotta think about love, support, and all that other stuff, acceptance, right?
Right.
Finding our place in the world, right? And so that masculine trait, right? Being in control and having that strength and being, strong and stuff like that. And
Right.
but most importantly, I believe, is not being able to openly talk about their emotions, right? That's the fourth one that I see on here. And I think that is honestly probably the most important, because of what we talk about on here every time, right? What the whole purpose of this podcast is for is for the mental warfares that we go through, and to find a way to release them, right? And so if we're not able to
Right.
openly talk about our emotions to someone, that is acid building up in our bodies, that's eventually destructing
Exactly.
and tearing us down, which then leads to this 80% that we're seeing, right?
Right.
80%. Like, and they
Right.
say it's more, they say that number is higher is because men are more aggressive as far as their method, right? But we're not going to go too far into that, because we don't want to
Right.
trigger anyone.
Yeah,
But
man.
it's something that we have to talk about because of this rate, right? Because of the suicide rate, and if we keep on brushing it under the rug, we're never going to get to the root of the problem, or trying to
Can't heal
find.
what you don't reveal, right?
Exactly.
Shout out to Barry. That's
Shout out to
probably
Barry
going to be
Taimani.
the top, probably one of the top quotes of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
But man,
go ahead.
it's just it's wild when you look at the numbers, because again, we are men, and we know what, like I said, we started to start it off, we know what it's like to struggle. But then when you look at the numbers and you see how many men are in that same boat as far as struggling goes, or even just experiencing any kind of symptom of mental health struggle, right? Whether it's anxiety, depression, stress, or whatever it is.
I love that you said that. I got it right here. So go ahead and finish. I got a list of warning signs.
Right. And there's a lot of them that we dismiss, again, especially being men, and having that definition of masculinity kind of defined for us before we even became men.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And again, not being able to,
That pre-programming.
that stigma behind, exactly, that programming behind, again, men don't open up, men don't talk about it, men don't have those type of feelings. You need to be a man and step up to whatever plate it is that you need to step up to, and just handle your business. And that's that. You don't talk about those type of things. And I think it was something like 70, it was almost 80% of all men have some sort of symptom that they deal with or struggle with or just experience at some point, if not through an extended period of their lives. And, like I said, depression, stress, anxiety, all that type of stuff. You said you got a list of a few more.
Oh, yes. Yes. All right. So, and we'll put the list on here too, for sure.
Yeah.
Aggressiveness, anger, irritability, changes in mood or energy levels, changes in appetite or sleeping habits, difficulty focusing, restlessness on edge, high consumption of alcohol, inappropriate use of drugs, participating in risky activities. So maybe start caring about the value of life, right? Feeling
Right.
sad, hopeless, numb, or emotionally flat, having aches, pains, or other physical symptoms without a clear cause. And we talked about before how your thoughts can make you sick, right? They hold energy. Their thoughts hold emotion,
Exactly.
right? They carry an emotional tag, to it. So we got to be careful because our thoughts can what make people sick, right? Stress.
Right.
There's actually a physical element that's being released in our body called cortisol that is a destructive chemical to our bodies, right? And that's why working out
Right.
is always good because it releases that. Anyways, thinking or act in a way that causes concern to others or has a negative impact on work, social, or family life. And then the worst one is thinking about or attempting suicide, right?
Yeah.
And so those are probably just some of them, right? You talked about
Exactly. There's a ton, again, if you have some sort of feeling that you're struggling with, that you feel that you have internally going on, you know what I mean? That's a sign right there, and again, bringing it back to identifying your support system. You need to be able to find somebody that you can talk to about these type of things. If it's not your spouse, if it's not a friend, if it's not a relative, excuse me, a mom, a dad, or whatever the case is, see if you can seek out professional help. There are people that will be there for you, and it doesn't have to be somebody that or it could be somebody that It doesn't have to be a stranger that you don't feel comfortable with. There are plenty of people in your life that you can turn to for something. And if you can't, then damn, that's another clear indicator right there that you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people, right?
yeah,
But so we've talked about recognizing the symptoms that you have within yourself. I think it's also important to, as a man, to validate those feelings and emotions that you have. To let it be. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to be struggling. It's okay to not be okay.
it's okay to not be okay because a lot of us,
Right?
I mean, majority of us aren't, right? I mean,
A
and
majority,
that's the
well,
fact.
and that's the thing. Almost 80% of men are struggling in some way, shape, or form with any of these symptoms that we talked about, any of these
Right.
things, any of these conditions. And of that 80%, it was like 40% of men don't speak up about their feelings.
Right.
Almost half is not
Right.
saying anything about how they feel. They're just carrying that weight. And again, speaking from experience, I've done that. And like you said, that eventually is going to have a negative effect on you physically, emotionally, mentally. If you are going through something and you're not talking about it, you're not recognizing it, you're not dealing with it, like you said, that's built up energy and it has to get released at some point. There will be a breaking point, and if you're not hitting that release valve,
Right.
if you're and releasing it on your own terms, it's going to be on its terms, and it's never going to feel good. It's never going to be pretty,
Man.
and odds are it's gonna affect somebody else in a negative way as well.
That's crazy because if you, I have an Instapot. You know what Instapot is?
No.
It's like an accelerated version of a slow cooker, right? And so what happens is how it works is the Instapot, which a lot of people are in, right? We have all the contents inside. Okay, you can call that our bodies, mind, or whatever you want to call that, right? And it creates this certain amount of pressure with inside of this chamber that allows the food to cook a lot quicker than it would if you were just had a slow cooker, right? But there's this release button. You said that release button is so crazy because it reminded me of it. After the food is cooking, you can let it release naturally, or you can do it manually. And so you click this button and all the steam just
Releases.
right, it all releases. But I encourage you to look it up, because that's basically how we're living our lives. That's how we're bottling up all of our emotions, like this Instapot. And it really just, like, it sprays everywhere, right? And depending on how much
Yeah.
pressure is
And you're
in
like,
there.
damn, I didn't realize there was that much in there. I didn't realize it could
Right?
hold that much.
Exactly. And only
Funny how
then,
that works out.
only then you're allowed to open up the top. Otherwise, it'd blow your lid, right? Like, it's crazy to think about, right? So I'm going to go into to the people who are at risk, right? And so men who have experienced trauma, right? I've been hearing a lot about military, right? You know, they go over there and they see a lot of things that we don't see.
Just
right?
the training to get into whatever branch is a shitload of trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah, facts.
Boot camp and Hell Week and all that type of shit, man. Just to
Right.
get to the point of not even experiencing all the really messed up stuff yet. The
Exactly.
mental and emotional and physical anguish that you have to go through just to get to that point, and then go through all that crazy stuff that they go through over there, man.
Anybody in the
how could you
military,
not?
right? Anybody in the military listening to this podcast, please reach out. We'd love to have you on here as a guest. Tell about your story, because we need that perspective. You know, sometimes we think that what we're going through, in which we're entitled to, right? I don't want to discredit anyone feeling like their emotions are entitled to them, because they are, because they're what they're going through. But perspective is important, so we can feel better about what we're going through, because maybe what we're going through isn't that bad, right? Because somebody that might be going through worse, right?
Well, again, perspective is everything, man. Because, on some level, what somebody else is going through, like, you look at what somebody else is going through and you're like, damn, I can't even imagine how hard that must be. But that person can look at what you have going on and say, wow, that must be really hard. I can't believe they're going through that.
And
They
that's
handle
what
that really
connecting
well.
is, and that's why we need to connect.
Exactly. And I know that for a fact, because so I'll tell the story without saying any names or anything, but I know somebody who their child had an accident and they're paralyzed, considered paralyzed from the neck down. They're a quadriplegic, and the hardship and struggle that mother has to go through, has gone through and it continues to go through in order to be there for her child, it is astronomical. It's crazy to think about, right? But there is also another person that was dealing with, an alcoholic husband that was, neglecting their duties as a husband, as a father, and amongst other aspects of their life. And that dealing with that was extremely difficult for that person. And so the person that was dealing with the alcoholic husband looked at the person that was dealing with a paralyzed son, and she said, wow, I can, you're so strong. Like, I can't even imagine going through the things that you're going through. It's so much harder than what I'm dealing with in my life. And the mother who was dealing with the quadriplegic son, she said something along the lines of, like, absolutely not. Like, don't ever belittle the things that you have going on in your life, because there are certain aspects that you have going on that I couldn't imagine dealing with. I couldn't imagine, having to be there and then still show up for all the other things that you show up for. The things that I have that I'm dealing with, I don't have to show up for certain things because of that.
Man, I have chills all over the place, man.
Perspective, man.
I love that so much. I'm not sure how much more of an example or situation to where you can connect on a different level, where the warfare is just real, able to talk about your stories in two different realms, two different situations, and have perspective like that, right? I've never really thought about, for the most part, the whole mental health movement has been about finding somebody that's been going through and what you've gone through, to find that relatability. But that's even better. Like, not that it's even better, but that's another angle that you can establish as far as finding somebody that you can connect with, or just connecting in general, right?
Right.
You know, just talking about what there are our problems, and maybe they're not the same of what we're going through with that, but maybe it provides some perspective in different areas of our lives that are like, dang, like that's crazy. Maybe I shouldn't
Right.
be as stressed about that particular category as stressed as I am about it. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, man. But you know, it also showed me that, you know, you don't need to belittle the things that you have going on just because somebody else has something that you deem worse
Yeah,
going on, right?
being
So,
entitled
so
to
like
your
I said,
emotions.
bringing back to validating your emotions. Like you do have something going on. You are, like you said, you are a living human, breathing human being that has thoughts, has feelings, has emotions, and they are affected by the things that are around you.
Exactly, because if
And
it's
you can't
affecting
you
you,
can't squash that. You
you
can't, you know,
cannot.
you
Can't
have
disregard
to
that.
you exactly. That's the word I was looking for. You can't disregard that. You
It has to
have
be
to be able
addressed.
to has to be addressed. You have to know that what you're feeling is real. And like I said, it's okay to not be okay. But what's not okay is to one deny that you have things going on and not addressing them, because again, like we've talked about in a previous episode, you don't realize the negative effect that that can have on those around you as well, not just for yourself.
Your
So
actions
it's
are, yeah, a reflection of the heart. Go ahead.
exactly, you know, so it's a tough balancing act, this life. You know, I'm saying a lot of things of, you know, don't worry about other people, worry about yourself, and then saying how the things that you do with yourself affect other people, right? But that's that balancing act of life that you got to try to figure out, and what's
Yeah.
the best way to keep everything up,
Well, of course.
and
Well,
not
what I
spend
think
too
is
much time focusing on one or the other. You have to
exactly.
be able to do that.
It's definitely a double edged sword, right? It's a balancing act. And we shouldn't be worried about what other people are doing, is as far as so much so that they're having a negative impact on our life. Now, if we're dealing with somebody that's bringing us down, that's judging us, that's putting us in a place that we're not in, or that's basically whatever type of energy that has anything to do with negative, that's not something that we can be a part of.
Right.
And for you know, and especially, you know, the envy aspect as well, right? You think about the celebrities. I don't care about none of them. You know, I don't care about any of them, right? Because they're all human, and they all started off as a baby, just like we all did, right? They
Right.
just figured out the formula a lot quicker than we did, but that's why we're here, to figure out the formula. So, because the formula's out there, the solutions are here, right?
Clearly, there are plenty
Right.
of people that have figured it out,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
There's
And so,
nothing
like you said,
special
this.
about those people. Like you said, they are people. They're human beings. They were just able to figure it out. Now, some people get put into different positions or better positions than others, but that doesn't mean that you still can't figure it out the best way that you can figure it out for yourself. There
And you
are
don't
plenty of
know,
people.
and you do still don't know what they're going through behind the scenes.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, Hollywood's a
Exactly.
hoax.
Well,
Hollywood
again,
is,
you know, that's that facade that we just see.
it's
Like I
a
was saying, you know,
facade.
we see all the success, but we're not seeing what it took to get to that point. And you know, if you just focus on those certain aspects, and not focus on the right things, the right work ethic, you know, the right people to surround yourself with, all those type of things, you're not gonna get into those same positions that they got into. You know what I mean?
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
absolutely. And there's another thing to think about. If you feel like, this is general speaking, if you feel like somebody has been given something, you can almost count on them not being fulfilled to the utmost possibility versus somebody who has, because we just talked about it, right? If you've
right?
been giving
Exactly.
something without having earned it, then you're not going to
Not the same.
appreciate what was given to you.
You're just going to want more, and you're
Exactly.
just going to continue to want more of all these things,
Yes.
because you're chasing something that you're not getting from these actual things.
Exactly.
If you went, you know what I'm saying? I'm just throwing this out there, man, but if you built a car, and you got it built to the point that it was like perfect and it could run everything, you're not going to go out and buy another car. You're going to drive that car that you
Yeah.
built. That's your baby. That's the only thing that you're ever going to want to be inside. That's it for you, because you built it and you got it to that point, and you're going to have pride in that. You're going to feel self-fulfilled from that. And like I said, until that car breaks down or whatever, and you're not able to fix it, you're not buying anything else, man.
Man,
That's it for
it's
you.
that love, that it's the heart that you put into it, that energy that you put into it, right?
Exactly. So yeah, get out there, build your own cars. Stop trying to
Yes.
stop seeing other people in these big fancy cars and thinking that those people are fulfilled by driving them.
Exactly.
Now,
And stop trying to steal
Some
by the-
people are, because some people worked really, really hard at whatever it is that they were doing, and with that money they bought that car,
Absolutely,
and that's their
but that's-
baby, right? So
Yes,
that's a different
that could-
story.
Absolutely. They built a different type of vehicle or some type of whatever they built to be able to
Right.
to enjoy that. And what I was going to say was, build your own car, right? Stop trying to steal somebody else's.
Right, exactly.
Stop trying to stop worrying about what like you said, what other people are driving, because you don't know the energy that they put into it. So I love that. I love that. We need to stop being envious and jealous of other people's situation, because our path is paved. I believe that 100%. Like, our path is paved. Success is inevitable. It's inevitable. The celebrities are appreciated. I'm going to say appreciated. Okay, so inspiring in the most part. We're not envious or jealous, right? That's the fact that they mastered their skill. They mastered
Their
their
craft,
creativity,
whatever that is.
their craft, whatever that was, and they've crafted it to a stage to where it's difficult. It looks easy for them, but it's difficult for us, and that's where the inspiration comes from. That's where the woes and the wows come in. He's like, man, he can do that. He can do that. It's only because we can't, but that's okay. But there are certain things that are in us that we are supposed to be able to do easy that others can't. It's just about finding that passion, that power, that superpower, right, that we talked about. It's
Right.
about finding your power and leveraging it out to the world. So I want to go over these last few points of who's at risk, right? And then we can wrap it up here soon. And so we had men who experienced trauma, and then we got men who experience employment issues, right? Okay, which is
Right.
huge. We talked about money being
Yep.
the breadwinner of the family. Men with legal or financial concerns, which is kind of the same. But there's a descriptions right here too. So it's having legal or financial worries can trigger the development of mental health problems and increase the risk of suicide. All right, and then we got men who misuse alcohol and drugs. Men with family history of mental ill health issues, and then men dealing with other life changes.
Yeah, sometimes that shit is hereditary, man. It just runs in the family, and you gotta, it's your responsibility. Again, nobody's at fault, but everybody's responsible, right? Bringing that one back, it's your responsibility to take care of yourself and to break that generational trauma and do what's best for you, because even though the others didn't, look what it led to. You know what I mean? So yeah, sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes it is something that is out of your control. But if you can't, bringing another one back, if you can't control the things that are going on around you, control how you respond to them, and that's where your power lies. So take matters into your own hands. In some way, you can do that. You may have a lot of things going against you, but there are things that you can do to make things better for you and to get help. And I truly think that getting help is one of those things. You know what I mean? Again, being a man, we got to break that old school definition of what a man is, and just define who you are as a man.
Yeah.
And not let somebody else define that for you. Who you are as a person, who you are as a son, who you are as a brother, who you are as a father, who you are as a husband, whatever that is, you can define that. It doesn't have to be defined by anybody or anything else.
Absolutely. Contributing factors versus determining factors. That reminded me of when you said that. Contributing factors are the exterior factors, the obstacles and the distractions that we endure on a daily basis. Those are contributing factors as to why we're not where we want to be in life, but those aren't determining factors, right?
Right.
It's not the exterior factors that are going to be the factors that determine our outcome, but the determining factors are what is inside, what we can control, and how we maneuver and manipulate the situations in our outside exterior, right?
Right.
And so those situations, what you talked about, you know, the stuff that's going on outside of the inside, or what's outside of the world as we go out, those aren't determining factors. They may slow us down, they may hold us back a little bit, they may anchor us a little bit, but they're not the reason why we can't obtain a certain level of happiness and success.
Right. Absolutely.
Love that. All right.
So, real quick before we end this, for anyone that does seem to be struggling, there like we said, there are actions that you can take. In July of 2022, there was a universal mental health emergency hotline that was launched nationwide in the U.S. And so by calling 988, it will connect you to a crisis counselor regardless of where you're at in the United States. Anytime, it's a number that is just as simple as dialing 911. For the same concept, they wanted it to be something that was nice and simple and easy for people to do. So for anybody that is struggling throughout the United States, you can dial 988 and get help.
Absolutely. And that's where we're on, continuing to build, continuing to find ways to get better and to find our path. Again, if there's anything that you guys want to talk about, anything that we can help, however we can help to find solution to a problem that you have, let us know. It'd be an honor, because that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Again, we know what it's like to struggle. And so if we could be there for anybody else that's going through it, nothing would fulfill us more, right?
Absolutely.
So, again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you everybody for following along with this journey and helping us keeping this going. We appreciate it.
Excited to see you guys on the next one.
Till next time. Thanks everyone.